Let's get over to the kitchen now and check in with ABC 7 Culinary Director Judi Gallagher, who is focusing on pie this Thanksgiving. Judi.
Well, it is that time of year where I think about pies, okay? I think about fruit pies year round, but this is really the time that we're getting into those delicious northern apples, and we want to turn the oven on because it's cooler outside. So I'm going to make an apple crumb pie. Now, you don't have to be a great pie maker for this, thank goodness, because I don't make a great crust. I'm going to use one of the Pillsbury crusts for the bottom layer. It's all about the streusel topping in this particular recipe. We're going to have brown sugar, and we're going to have a little bit of cinnamon, and maple syrup is going right into the apples. So I want you to stay with me through the whole hour as we enjoy the fresh flavors of the season and make a wonderful apple streusel pie. Okay, I have the Granny Smith apples that are peeled, cored, and I've put in just half the amount of sugar. If you add the sugar for about a half an hour, it tends to bring the juices out more of the apples, so that will make your pie juicy. You want to use something like a Granny Smith that's going to hold up. Macintosh apples really are for applesauce. So to this is what makes it so good. I was over at Yoder's Produce Market to get my apples, and I'm going to do some Amish pure maple syrup there. Give it a nice drizzle. Ooh, I love this already. And stir that around. And then I want you to use a good quality cinnamon. Mine is from the Spice and Tea Exchange on St. Armand's. And you know, cinnamon comes from various places in the world, so you want to find the ones that you like. I use a different cinnamon for actually my savory cooking than I do for my baking. So we'll give this a nice toss. To this, we're also going to add a teaspoon of lemon juice, and that's going to keep the apples from turning brown. It also gives just that balance of citrus. Okay, so let's let that sit there for a minute. We're going to work on the streusel topping in a little while. I've taken the Pillsbury pie crust, and I have a good pie pan, and then what you can do is just go around, and you know, the greatest thing I find is that since it's a streusel topping, it doesn't have to look perfect because the streusel is going to hide a lot, and homemade means there can be a couple mistakes. So if you are making the homemade pie crust, and I want you to make me one, make sure your butter goes in the freezer. You dice your butter and then put it in the freezer. When you're working with these, you pull them out of the refrigerator about 20 minutes before you're going to unroll it. And that should be good to go, just like that. So we have our apples that have the lemon juice, and it has that delicious maple syrup in it. And we have just a little bit more sugar. Remember I mentioned it's really good to put half the sugar in the very beginning. And what happens with that is it just helps the apples create their own juice. You can certainly add raisins to this, or you can add cranberries. So let's go ahead and put this into the bottom crust there. Now you can see that I have my pie plate. I've lined it with parchment paper in case it bubbles over so it doesn't make it too hard to clean the cookie sheet. It's on a cookie sheet. The oven is set for 350. Come back and we'll make the streusel topping. Okay, the pie, the base is in. I'm just using a store-bought bottom pie shell. I forgot to mention the last segment, I did stir in 1.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. That's going to help the juices thicken so it doesn't get too runny. Now let's make the streusel topping. I have dark brown sugar, and just break it up a little bit with your hands. And then what I'm going to do is I have some vanilla, pure vanilla, about 1 teaspoon, but I always like to add a little bit more even though I say 1 teaspoon. Now we have a couple tablespoons of flour and some more of that delicious cinnamon. And definitely you're going to want to add some either apple pie spice or another, like a hint of clove, ground cloves or nutmeg is really nice in this as well. So we're going to mix this together, and then we're going to add a little melted butter. And you know, on the recipe, you don't have to use the entire amount of butter. So you want to just get it so it's crumbly, as you can see I'm getting there. Now I come to my little bonus. You know I love to work with granola. So Yoder's Produce Market has this awesome granola. So we're going to mix the granola in with the flour and the sugar, and we're going to add just a little bit more flour. Needling it in as we go, a teeny bit more butter. There we go. And then just a touch of the regular refined sugar. Okay, and we have that vanilla in there, so it really brings that flavor up. And you can see how the crumbles really blended well, but it's not too runny. So now all we have to do is put this on top of the pie. Oh yeah. And then the last thing, now you have to beat the egg really, 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 really well. And once you do, then you can just take your fingers and just dab the edges of the pie crust, and that will get it golden brown. If you notice that the edges are baking too quickly, what you can do is just put foil just around the edges about a half an hour into it. This pie is going to bake about 50 minutes at 350 degrees. And when we come back, I have one hot out of the oven. You're going to enjoy this as much as I do, I think. I'll be back in a few minutes. Voila, here we have it, a baked apple streusel pie. Now what makes it a little bit unique is that I use Grandma's granola from Yoder's mixed into that streusel topping, so it has that brown sugar that married with some flour, cinnamon, some apple pie spices, using the Granny Smith apples, always using grass-fed butter. It gives you a heartier, a richer, I should say, flavor. And we had maple syrup inside in the apples, so that really brought up that sweetness and the flavor. Now, if you want to try this at home, and the next day we'll have our recipe up, just go on mysuncoast.com, click on the dining page, and you'll see the recipes, the video, and so much more. You can always follow along, plan a dinner party with a week's worth of recipes and more. And email me and let me know how your pie came out. Right now I'm going to cut it up so everybody can enjoy and send it back to you.